If you're anything like me, then you probably have a thing about throwing things away. And by things, I mean building materials.
Which is why when I foundation delete modded my house, I spent months assessing, cleaning, and stacking the old bricks, just in case I needed them.
You could say I'm a bit bricked up. These have been taking up an inordinate amount of space in my yard, and they look like they're about to fall over at any second. But I've got big plans for these things.
We're going to turn these bricks into a nice patio out in the back of my backyard. I've got a spot picked out and everything. You're gonna love it.
Ugh. I really let this place go. In case you're wondering what you're looking at, that's all the dirt I sorcerer's apprenticed out of the basement. It spent the past couple of years evolving into a living, breathing, sentient pile of trash with complex feelings and memories. And today, you're gonna help me murder it.
Naturally, having such a pile on the premise is an open invitation to every other yard project that needs some sort of no questions asked disposal. It starts off innocuous enough, like leaves and acorns, and the next thing you know, it's every silly job you were too cheap to pay to have disposed of. It's really a trip down memory lane. Look, it's the plaster from the basement walls. Oh hey, it's the clay with little pockets of rat nests from the former secret room crawl space thing. And, oh my god, I almost forgot about the bags of concrete I just buried out here that solidified into 80-pound rocks. Not to mention the vegetation. Mother Nature has had her way for far too long in this corner of the yard, and it's time to kick her ass. We are currently on our second 10-yard dumpster. At least I think it's a second. I lost count after the first one. It's a bit more rubbish than I thought it would be, if I'm being totally honest. But no matter. One way or another, it's all coming with me. I get the sinking feeling there's a lot more junk buried out here. From long before my arrival to this planet. There are concrete bergs poking out of the ground large enough to sink the sister ship of the Titanic, the RMS Olympic. I'm beginning to dig some of it up already. I'll hold on to them for now in case I need them.
Well, it's gone. I don't know if it had a name or friends or family we should inform, but either way, it went for a good cause. At this point, we're pretty much level with the existing grade, probably about halfway done digging. Now we need to go down another 8 to 10 inches or so, which will set us up for the next part of this project, which is turning this area into a gravel pit.
You heard the man. Grab those shovels, boys. Now, 8 inches of gravel is really a lot for a typical patio. I want to reserve the right to drive a vehicle on the final result without it being swallowed by the earth. I'm on the fence as to whether or not I'll ever do that, but either way, a little overkill never killed no one. I don't know exactly what took place back here, but I can tell you this much. It was a f***ing party. They were probably all laughing their asses off thinking about the prospect of some guy having to dig all this shit back up in the future. I'll bet they felt really smart, snickering into their old Milwaukee and pissing all over themselves. $5 says they were having a Viking funeral for the home's original front porch. I'd long suspected it was buried out here. These purple veneer bricks with mortar still on them are the same that make up my house. And unless it had another amputation I'm unaware of, this is the most likely explanation. I found others scattered throughout the rest of the yard outside of this project. I'll add these to my collection of veneer bricks in case I need them. Judging by the quantity of beer consumed, the same group is likely responsible for installing the current porch. The variety of concrete seems to imply they're all coming from at least 4 different places. At the time this neighborhood was being developed, Detroit was already going through tear-down rebuild cycles. The property and surrounding area would have been graded with the bones of forgotten homes. I could be unearthing that. It could be waste from this neighborhood's construction. The world may never know. Digging this stuff up out of here is just brutal. And it seems like the chunks just keep getting bigger. Everywhere my pick lands is rock hard. It feels like I'm open palm striking, a concrete block. At least the birds are having a good time. And hey, on the bright side, it's more for the collection in case I ever need them. Look at all this. Maybe I should just put the pieces back together and have that be my patio. And now the great eye within us turns its attention to the two big trees you see growing right out of the fence line are invasive species of the most tenacious sort that won't even bat an eyelash at getting one of its schlongs lopped off. And if it did cause some harm, to hell with them anyway. Cthulhu's grave has been sufficiently desecrated and other major obstacles removed. We can now run a string level and get serious about grading. I haven't noticed any issues with water back here in all my years, but I'm still going to pitch it 1/4 inch for every foot because it's the right thing to do. This concrete perimeter poured around my garage is actually pitched perfectly already, so I'll use that as my cheaty face reference for this side. And then the corner farthest from the garage goes down another 4 or 5 inches or whatever. Okay, thinking time is over. Back to digging. We still actually need to go down quite a bit further. More than I thought, actually. I hope I don't need another dumpster. I don't know if my driveway can take any more dumpsters. I'm detecting some undulation. The worst spots are about 3 inches too high. I'm going around and skimming them with a shovel, a 1/2 inch at a time, and every so often striking a rock or brick that makes a brand new hole I have to worry about.
Four dumpsters later, and we here, standing at the precipice of a whole new beginning. I want to say the hard part's over, but at this point, I know better than to say such things out loud. Irony could be lurking behind any corner, waiting to strike without warning. The pit is dug, graded, and ready to receive a whole new, yet somehow all too familiar material.
Is this reverse deja vu? I feel like I just got done pulling all this shit out of here. Why go through the trouble? The gravel you're looking at is 21 AA crushed limestone. It's commonly used for driveways, paver bases, retaining walls, and sub-bases for other things due to its excellent compactability and ability to drain well. It's laid down about 3 inches at a time and then spanked into submission with a heavy plate spanker. Yeah, you f***ing like that? You don't want to do more than 3 inches at a time because you won't maximize compaction. Gotta give them layers a quick shower too because they're filthy. Not a bath, mind you. Puddles and high saturation can be problematic. I go over each layer at least 3 times, 4 to be safe. Laying bricks directly on the gravel layer isn't recommended because the gravel can shift and settle unevenly over time. Instead, we add a 1-inch bedding layer of slag. Slag is a byproduct of the steel making process and compacts splendidly and has a lot of other good stuff going for it. I won't bore you with the details. It gets spanked down all the same. Before we start bricking, we need a clean work area. I organized the concrete into a monolith. I'd like to try and use this old contractor stamp block somewhere. It's a real gem. These are the bums that poured the walkway right in the dirt without a base course. Probably the garage, too. Lincoln 1262W was a party line phone number, where Lincoln referred to the local telephone exchange, and the W indicated a shared line with distinct ring patterns to distinguish who the call was intended for. These were offered at a discounted rate compared to individual lines. Around this time, garages were just starting to become a standard in American homes. Before that, houses may have had a utility shed, a stable, a carriage house, or nothing at all. The rise of affordable automobiles, like the Model T, quickly changed all that, and homeowners began adapting dirt floor structures into proper garages with poured slabs and poured walkways, like this one. All right, folks, we're on to the main event. Here's what's at stake. 2 weeks from today, we're hosting a party where 60 people are expected to show up, and if I'm not done by then, everyone will think I'm an asshole. I really don't know how long this last leg is supposed to take because I've never done this before. Hopefully it's less than 2 weeks. We gotta stake this area out one last time, lay some brick, pour a perimeter, sweep some sand, and then we're grilling. I sure hope I have enough. Laying the brick is supposed to go pretty fast once you get going. I'm going for this sort of basket woven pattern. Crosshatch? I'm sure one of you will tell me what it's called. I liked the complexity, and it seemed like a good way to use broken bricks, which I knew I had a lot of. 5 down and then turn, or was it 4 and every other one is 5? Oh boy, maybe I should have just gone with a herringbone pattern. For the first quarter at least, I'd spend 5 minutes laying brick and the next 10 minutes trying to figure out where I screwed up. But I did get the hang of it eventually, and it started to go much quicker. Piling bricks up right on the slag was another speed bonus. Shout out to Pass Me for actually putting in the work and cleaning these bricks up right. There were only a few that needed some touching up I used an old Farrier files for. Present Me thanks you. Which I guess at this point is also a version of Past Me. So Pass Me thanks the other Pass Me. But it's all just me, so I guess it all cancels out? And we're back to nothing? What am I even talking about? You may have noticed some gaps in these rows. Good eye, mate. Part of this is a consequence of the bricks being all different sizes, but the layout isn't really square yet either. Probably should have been paying closer attention when I was setting these. I've just been so preoccupied thinking about all that concrete I just scored, taking a moment to scrunch everything toward the one square corner. We need to fill in these open spaces, etc. I'm trying to save time by laying out all the broken brick pieces on the patio, so it's easier to find the right sizes and make things fit. This could very well be a fool's errand. I'll report back later. This is all the bricks from the barrow dumps so far. There isn't enough here to get us home, so as much as it kills me, I'm gonna have to start breaking whole bricks in half. Normally, I would just stack 10 or 20 and karate chop them all down the middle at once, but this isn't practical for most people, so I'm using a brick hammer instead. It does a pretty good job. I get a clean break about 60% of the time. I'm really looking for bricks that are about 1/2 to 3/4 their original size. Otherwise, it looks goddamn! Otherwise, it looks weird. The faces really need to be as square as possible in order for there to not be weird gaps. I found I was spending the majority of my time squaring faces. A saw may have been quicker, but I think these need to have that rugged look that says, I just don't give a shit anymore. I think bringing the pieces out was a good move. We are making pretty good time so far. It would be an awful shame if some freak act of nature delayed the project. Listen, I do my best to do things the right way. I understand all too well the consequences of shortcuts. And for this particular project, no corners had been cut. Until now. I was really afraid of this step randomly taking a shit ton of time, so I rented the most badass wet saw offered by Home Depot. This thing is sweet. It's really making short work of it. My favorite part may be the Mortal Kombat fatality blood spray you get whenever you make a cut. I started out batch cutting a bunch of similarly sized corners. Eventually, I had to make more considered cuts on a case-by-case basis. But I had the saw rented for like 2 days, and I think the whole job maybe took 4 hours. Feeling pretty good about timing. It looks like something terrible took place here. Like a frantic disembowelment. Patio's really starting to come together though. A few little adjustments before we add a 4x4 concrete corral to prevent these bricks from migrating. And to think after I finish this and the next step, I'll finally be done wrestling that 30-foot tarp. I literally can't wait. I'm making my forms out of the dumpster ramp. Waste not, want not. No rental mixer for this job. Not after what happened last time. This should really only be about 10 bags of concrete. So I'm mixing 2 at a time in a barrow and shoveling tediously into a workspace so narrow. Pack it down and smooth with the trowel, careful to wipe off undesired smudges. with a towel. Thanks, Dr. Seuss. We'll take it from here. Believe it or not, this took even longer than it took me to pour my 68-bag basement slab by myself. Between mixing and shoveling by hand, going back over everything with the trowel, and cleaning up the whoopsies, it all added up to be over 3 hours. Well worth it in the end, though. We'll knock these forms off later. I ain't got time for that. I can see the finish line from here, and my body craves closure. I dug up these cool stamp bricks with all the other junk. I thought they would be a nice touch, so I'm adding them where they fit and making a few other little adjustments in spacing hither and yon. The last step? Sand in the cracks. Usually an inconvenience, but for patios, it's the yin of a brick's yang. There are many flavors from which to choose. You don't want just any old sand. This is masonry, which is about as coarse as you'd ever want to go. This was all that was available to me locally, but you could get joint sand, or, for some applications, polymeric sand, which is joint sand with hardening agents. It's much more expensive and doesn't work too well when there are bigger gaps, like on my patio. I really underestimated the amount of time this would take. The sand was moist out of the bag, so it didn't exactly just fall right into place like you'd expect it to. You'd think you had an area filled, and then you'd look back and it's a crack again. Luckily, it was 100 degrees out, so it didn't stay wet for very long. But even still, you really gotta work it around. Over and over. You also need to set the bricks as you're doing this as well. The most common method is to cover the entire area with sand and run a heavy plate spanker back over it. I was afraid this would damage some of the bricks since they're all sitting at different heights, so I went around with a dead blow mallet and tapped them all down a few times. Sweep and repeat, and sweep, and repeat, until finally, it's just one last little spot. And then, just like that, it's done. I almost can't believe it. I've been at this non-stop for like a month. I gotta get this place cleaned up. It's only 3 days till party time.
Victory at last, and not a moment too soon. You'll forgive me for not capturing footage of my daughter's first birthday party. I was too busy manning the grill and assisting with gift opening. Needless to say, it was her best birthday yet. I've got a free PDF of the brick pattern available for download on my website in case you're interested in opening this particular can of worms yourself. As for the rest of the backyard, well, we're really just getting started. There's some more dirt, there's the fence line and remaining vegetation, and of course, the pole. All in due time. I'm trying to get as much of it done as I can before I perish. Hopefully, that's not for a little while at least. But in the meantime, you can subscribe and/or follow me on Instagram to see just how far I can get. If you found this video useful or even entertaining, then help me feed the all-consuming insatiable algorithm. It eats likes, comments, subscribes, shares, viewer retention, and unfortunately, it can never quite seem to get enough. If you like what I do and want to support the channel, you can check out my online store, mujincontact.com, or I like coffee too. Thanks for laying it down with me today, guys. There's no one I'd rather descend into the first couple layers of hell with than you. Let's do it again sometime soon, shall we? Godspeed.